These videos are not designed to be academic or theology degree level resources. While I strive to honor the spirit of the original biblical texts, elements of my storytelling are interwoven with details from my own imagination. This creative approach is intended to make God's Word more relatable and easier to understand and apply to your everyday life. The settings may not reflect the historical context of the Bible, the clothing may not match the styles of that era, and the language and music reflect the influence of my own lifetime. I pray you will enjoy. I pray they make a positive influence and perhaps even be transformative in some way. Peace and blessings, Cheryl.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this extraordinary gathering. All around us, women from every walk of life have traveled here. They have come from LA, Chicago, and New York to convene here in Georgia, united by a single hope, to hear the words of Jesus because he's got a story to tell. There's a tangible sense of anticipation in the air, amongst the hustle and bustle, everyone trying to get to their seats. But yet, a gentle hum that passes from one heart to the next, reminding us that this isn't just another meeting. This is a moment that could change the course of our lives. Look around. There are grandmothers whose laughter lines hold the memories of entire generations, mothers who balance countless responsibilities, single women and widows who have triumphed through trials, and young women stepping into new chapters of their stories. Each one has come carrying expectations, burdens, and yes, even hidden hurts. Yet in the midst of it all, there is a quiet confidence, the promise that by the end of today, hope will be renewed, hearts will be lighter, and faith will grow stronger. For we've heard the rumors. When Jesus speaks, everything changes. His words reach beyond the surface of our circumstances and pierce straight to the heart. They bring life to what feels barren, shine light into dark corners of our souls, and reminds us that no matter where we've been, we are never too far from His transforming love. So settle in, dear sisters, and open your hearts wide. Jesus has come to share a story, and by the time we leave, we will be richer in spirit than when we arrived. Let the journey begin.
My dear daughters, I see you. I see the years etched gently into your faces, the laughter lines and the tear tracks that mark a life full of joys and sorrows. I see the hopes you once held in your heart, some fulfilled, others long tucked away. I also see how weariness can settle in, how regrets can echo in the quiet moments of the night. You wonder if your best days are behind you, if perhaps you're less worthy of love now than you were in your younger years. But let me tell you a story that is for you at this very moment. No matter how many sunrises you've seen or tears you've cried, it's a story of love, unearned, unshakable, and unwavering. It's about the truth of Romans 5:8, that I loved you deeply and completely while you were still in need. Let me remind you of that verse. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That means my love did not wait for you to fix yourself up or to prove your worth. My love came first. It always does. You see, love, real divine love, begins not with your merit, but with my heart. Before you drew your first breath, I looked upon you, precious child, and chose to love you with an everlasting love. Some of you might say, Lord, I believe you love me, but there are times when I just don't feel it. I look at my life and see all the bad choices, all the wrong decisions, all the mistakes that really could have been avoided. The visuals of the many times that I disrespected my husband with my harsh words, the times that I was impatient or lost my temper with those I say I love. I even think back to that season of my life where I drifted so far from faith that I couldn't see you at all. But dear one, I want you to hear me. My love is not dependent on your perfection, or on your crossing your T's nor dotting your I's. Indeed, my love is most powerfully displayed in the moments when you realize how much you need me. When you see your flaws and regrets, remember that I saw them first, even before you were born, and I still chose the cross on your behalf. Let me bring to mind a few dear women of faith who walked their own difficult paths, who came to know the depths of my love in ways they never expected. Think of Sarah, wife of Abraham. She was well past the age of childbearing, in her later years, wrestling with disappointment and shame. She had prayed and hoped for a child, but the years slipped through her fingers like sand. And yet, I visited her household. I spoke life into a barren womb, and I brought forth laughter, Isaac, just as I had promised. But my promise to Sarah wasn't merely the gift of motherhood. It was a testimony that I remained faithful, even when you think it's too late, even when you believe my plans for you have expired. Sarah laughed in disbelief at first, but I redeemed that laughter into joy. She learned that my timing may be mysterious, but my commitment to you, my precious daughters, never wavers. Then consider Naomi, an older widow who felt her life had slipped from fullness into famine. She lost her husband and her 2 sons, the anchors of her heart. Bitterness tried to take root in her soul, so much so that she wanted to change her name to Mara, meaning bitter. But I sent her Ruth, faithful, compassionate Ruth, who wouldn't abandon her mother-in-law's side. Through Ruth, I wove hope back into Naomi's life. I provided a redeemer in Boaz, and Naomi found herself cradling a grandson whose lineage would lead all the way to me. In her darkest season, when bitterness threatened to define her, my love still had a plan. She discovered that she was never truly forsaken. Even in your own hardest seasons, I am with you, arranging circumstances, sending help, working in the background and reminding you, when you can't see my hand, trust my heart, you are still mine. You might also recall Anna, the prophetess who served in the temple. She had been widowed for many years, and she could have chosen despair. Society may not have thought much of a woman her age, but Anna spent her days and nights worshiping, fasting, and praying. She awaited the redemption of Israel, a longing that must have felt endless at times. Then one day, I arrived in the temple as an infant, carried in my loving mother's arms, and Anna recognized me, and her heart lit up with joy. She spoke of me to all who were looking forward to redemption. For decades she held on to hope, and I did not disappoint her. Her eyes beheld my face, and she knew her life was not in vain. In a similar way, I see your faithful prayers day after day, year after year, your hope that might flicker but never truly fades. I am never late, though my timing may puzzle you. I am always weaving your story into something far more beautiful than you can imagine. Now, I understand you may still say, but Lord, I made some terrible decisions and life-altering mistakes as a mother. I've hurt people I love. I carry regrets about my marriage and about relationships that should have never been formed and relationships that should have been but never were. Regrets about paths I never took when I knew I should. How could you still love me while I'm aware of so many failings? My dearest child, do you recall Mary Magdalene? She carried heavy burdens of shame and spiritual oppression. The world saw her as broken and unworthy. Yet when I spoke her name, she experienced freedom and love like never before. She remained close to me, following me even to the cross. And on the morning of my resurrection, it was Mary Magdalene I first appeared to. Her story shows that I do not measure you by your past. I measure you by my heart. I see your potential, your dignity, and your need, and I willingly give you my grace. Likewise, consider the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman who had gone through multiple marriages and was weary of life's disappointments. She might have been older, certainly worn by sorrow. She came to the well seeking water, yet her real thirst was for acceptance, for a love that would not fade. She was startled when I, a Jewish man, spoke to her with kindness, but I saw beyond the labels others had placed upon her. I saw her heart, and I offered her living water. That day she tasted a love that did not condemn her for her past, but set her free for a brighter future. She was so transformed that she became a messenger of good news to her entire town. This is what happens when you realize my love is truly for you. It overflows into every corner of your life, radiating outward and blessing those around you. I know many of you feel the weight of the years and wonder if perhaps you have less to offer. But let me reassure you, in this golden season, and while you still have breath, you have a purpose in my kingdom. When I walk the earth, I cherish the faithful love and witness of women well past their youth. Look again at Sarah, at Naomi, at Anna, at Elizabeth who bore John in her old age, and at all who seem forgotten in the eyes of the world. I never forgot them. Just as my Father in heaven sees every sparrow that falls, how much more does he see you, each one of you, each tear you've cried, each longing of your heart. Let me share a parable-like story to illustrate my love for you in this season of life. There was once an older woman named Miriam, well into her 50s, who lived in a small community. She had raised her children and lost her husband years earlier. Daily, she sat by her window, gazing out at the world, wondering if her chapter had ended. She'd whisper prayers, sometimes in bitterness, sometimes in hope, but often in tears. Lord, do you still see me? Do you still have something for me to do? One day, a neighbor knocked at Miriam's door. It was a young mother struggling with 3 little ones, desperate for some guidance and a caring voice. Miriam invited her in, poured some tea, and listened patiently as the young woman explained her troubles: financial strain, an unsupportive spouse, and the daily exhaustion of motherhood. Miriam remembered her own days juggling diapers and dishes. She offered comfort and wisdom that only a seasoned heart can give. The young mother left, encouraged and strengthened. Over time, more neighbors came to Miriam's door. Some needed practical help, others needed a listening ear. Miriam discovered that the wisdom accumulated over the years and the love she still had to give were deeply needed by those around her. And here's the hidden truth. Though she thought her life was fading, my grace was just beginning to bloom in a new season of fruitfulness. While she once believed her worth had diminished, I had always seen her as a beloved vessel, capable of pouring out compassion to those who needed it. But Miriam's deeper transformation came not just from helping others, but from realizing that I was with her in every memory of her past. Where she saw mistakes or missed opportunities, I saw a tapestry of lessons, trials, and victories that shaped her into who she was. She began to understand Romans 5:8 more personally. While I was still struggling, while I was still doubting, while I was still living in fear, Christ loved me enough to give his life for me. This awareness melted the bitterness that had taken root in her soul. She let go of regrets, seeing that I could redeem every part of her story. That redemption is what I offer each of you. Whether you have regrets about how you raised your children, choices in relationships, or how you invested your time, please know that nothing is wasted in my kingdom. Sometimes, your earlier years were spent simply surviving, doing the best you could with what you had. You might feel you've done too little or made too many mistakes, but I see a heart that is still beating with love, a mind that holds experiences to share, a spirit that can still sing praises to me. As long as you walk the earth, your story is not over. Even more so, your story is beautifully woven into mine. Now you might feel a stirring in your heart, something urging you to let go of guilt, to release the need to be perfect, to embrace the truth of my love. That stirring is my Holy Spirit, gently reminding you that you are precious to me. Remember, my child, I died for you. Not when you had life figured out, but precisely when you were still in need. I cared for you at your weakest, at your most confused, at your loneliest, and I still care for you now. My love has never been about what you do to earn it. It's about who I am. I am love, I am the good shepherd, and I lay down my life for my sheep. Let me speak to another worry that may rest in your mind. What if my physical body weakens you? Ask yourself. What if my mind becomes less sharp? You fear losing independence or becoming a burden. Dearest one, I understand that fear. I see how you long to remain strong and capable for as many years as possible. But I ask you to remember that your identity is not found in what your body can or cannot do. Your identity is rooted in me. You remain my beloved, my treasure. If you face physical challenges, let others help you. In that, you're giving them an opportunity to reflect my love too. Lean on me and watch how I provide for you, often through the care of family, friends, or even gentle strangers. Sometimes you may wonder, Lord, is it wrong to miss the days of my youth? Is it sinful to feel sadness about the losses I've experienced? My dear friend, absolutely not. Grief and sadness are part of living in a broken world. Even I wept when my friend Lazarus died, fully knowing I would soon raise him. Sadness does not mean you lack faith. It simply means you have loved deeply and have been deeply invested in the life I gave you. But let that sadness become a bridge to deeper intimacy with me. When tears fall, lift your eyes to me. I have promised to wipe away every tear. And though that final promise will come in the fullness of my kingdom, I also bring comfort here and now. I want you to also remember how I interacted with women of every age and circumstance when I walked the earth. From the woman who touched the hem of my garment in the midst of a crowd, to the sisters Mary and Martha grieving their brother's death, I never dismissed their concerns as small or unimportant. I never withheld my time or my miracles because they were women or because of their age or status. I continue that same attentive care for you even today. Please never imagine that your prayers are too old or too late. Instead, come to me with expectancy, trusting that I still delight in answering the cries of your heart. And so I urge you to open your hands, release your burdens, and accept my love afresh. You have seen many seasons of life: budding youth, the demands of adulthood, the joys and struggles of motherhood or career, the changes and challenges of midlife, and now these senior years, affectionately called the golden season, that can hold both peace and uncertainty. Through all of this, I have been the constant, the one who never leaves. Perhaps you have felt distant from me at times, but I have never been distant from you. My heart has always been turned toward you, and if there is any residue of fear that keeps you from fully trusting that I can love you, just as you are now, bring that fear to me. Let me speak directly to it. I love you because it is my nature to love. I redeemed you because you are my own. I have chosen you and called you by name, and you are mine. So, dear daughters, rest in this truth. Romans 5:8 is not just a verse about the moment of salvation, but a living promise for every day of your life. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Hear it again as, while I was still struggling, while I still had regrets, while I had no idea what tomorrow held, Jesus died for me. That means my love was poured out for you at your very worst, ensuring that you can trust me at all other times as well. Open your heart to see that you remain precious in my sight, as full of dignity and worth as you were on the day you were born. Let my spirit fill you with hope and purpose. Use the wisdom of your years to encourage younger women, as Titus 2:3-5 suggests, teaching, guiding, showing them what real faith looks like when refined by time. Offer your prayers and your presence to those around you. Know that I have not called you to a life of isolation or insignificance. I have called you to continue walking hand in hand with me, shining my love in ways only you can. Now, as we near the end of this story, I invite you to pause and imagine yourself in my presence. Picture me looking into your eyes, calling you by name. What I offer you is a warm embrace of grace, a reminder that your worth is found in my sacrifice. I did not wait for you to be perfect, but reached out when you felt far off. I have carried you through the storms of life, and I promise to carry you still. When this world feels overwhelming, recall Sarah's laughter turned to joy, Naomi's bitterness turned to blessing, Anna's long wait rewarded, Mary Magdalene's despair turned to devotion, and the Samaritan woman's shame turned to a bold testimony. I do the same kind of transforming work in your life. The best is never behind you when I walk beside you. Eternity awaits, yet even now, I have divine appointments for you. Let your heart rest in he who loves you the most me, for I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. My love does not wither with time, nor does it fade if you fall short. It was there before you spoke your first word, and it will remain long after you breathe your last breath and in every moment in between. My love is an endless wellspring of mercy, compassion, and grace. You, dear daughter, are my beloved. Please carry that truth close to your heart. Let it nourish you, sustain you, and embolden you to live each day with joyful expectancy. Know that I am with you always, right to the end of the age, and remember Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. This is your assurance that my arms are always open, ready to hold you close, guide you forward, and remind you that you are cherished, yesterday, today, and forever. I love you, Jesus, your soon-coming King.